Okay, welcome. My name is Richard Swiger. I'm the Director of Field Operations for Prison Fellowship Ministries. I oversee prison fellowships operations in the field throughout the state. Today we are with Building Bridges. We are going to be discussing pandemic practices and pivots for mentoring men. And as a brief description, we're all right now dealing with a sense of losing connection with people who are important to us. For those of us who are called to mentoring, specifically with mentoring men, we're struggling to find solid footing in our current shifting foundation. Today, we are joined by mentoring experts for a real and relevant discussion on best practices and pivots for effective pandemic mentoring within our justice-involved population. Now, what do all those words mean? This particular session explores setting realistic expectations for both mentors and mentees during this season of social distancing and effective ways to continue to be a life-giving presence and a stable relationship in these uncertain times. Our speakers are going to focus on ways to lead and support their personal army of volunteers and mentors. I'm going to ask each of the speakers, the presenters, to introduce themselves with the following information. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself by the name of your organization, the geographical area that you cover, and the reentry areas that you serve or experience, and also some experiences that you may have had in those areas. We'll get to those experiences, but more importantly, the name of the organization, geographical area cover, and the areas that you serve. Our speakers today are the distinguished Reverend Eli Williams is supposed to be here. I don't know, did he join? Okay. Carlos Christian, I know I saw Carlos, and Burl Lemon. Now, Carlos is, he has an organization. He is the president CEO of Starts Within organization. And then Burl is with Forever Dads. Reverend Eli Williams is with Urban Light Ministries. And these are wonderful men. So we're going to begin the discussion with questions. But first, I'm going to ask each of them, and we'll start with is Reverend Eli Williams here? Did he make it on the call? Okay, I do not see him. So we'll start with Carlos. Carlos, if you would unmute and you would share with us those, you're going to introduce yourself, the name of your organization, and the geographical area that you serve.
Okay, my name is Carlos Christian. I'm with the Starts Within organization. We was founded back in 2011. So it's been some time, just rocking and rolling. And the main purpose of the Starts Within organization is saying that we work with individuals before they get released, and then we also work with them after they get released as well. So when we say that it starts within yourself, starts within your current situation. So just exciting to be able to just work with the men and the incarcerated women before they get released. And I've come to this by just my story. I was incarcerated myself for a 10-year prison sentence, my entire 20s from 19 to 29 years old. And I'm committed. I'm committed to helping people to navigate a system that, I was in, and I was able to get to the other side. So just exciting for that. And the geographical area that Starts Within covers, literally is like Ohio, because we have people that are in Cleveland, we have people that are in Cincinnati, so then that's the difference. We have people that's in Columbus, so and in Richland County as well. So it's just we have a lot of people in different areas of the state, and we get it done. So.
Thank you, Carlos. That's excellent. And Burl Lemon, would you go ahead and do the same? Tell us the name of your organization, the geographical area that you serve, and we'll start right there.
I'm Burl Lemon. I'm the executive director of Forever Dads. We're located here in Zanesville, and we serve Muskingum County, Guernsey, Perry, Noble, and Morgan, specifically. And Coshocton as far as counties through Noble Correctional Institution. We also, through our Project Ready, a Second Chance Act grant, serve in our city and county jail. I've been with Forever Dads. We birthed it back in 2006. Prior to that, our founder, James McDonald, was part of the initial Fatherhood Initiative. And we continue to serve in these different areas, and we are recipients of funding through the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood.
Okay. All right, that is excellent. We're going to begin a guided discussion with questions, and we're going to begin to talk about how mentoring men has changed over the past 8 months since the COVID-19 pandemic. Connection right now is incredibly important, and right now, we need to be on the same page and moving forward as a collective in dealing with the trauma of COVID-19. Reentry has additional challenges now, and especially for those who have lost contact or have no natural connections and are incarcerated but soon to be released with little resources. So I'm going to begin asking questions, and Burl, I'll start with you. So how has social distancing impacted the connectivity between male mentors and mentees?
I think the first thing we have to identify is that incarceration is not just where someone is housed within a facility, or reentry is not just someone who's just getting out of prison. But reentry is much broader than that, and that includes those who may have been out for 2 to 5 years. There's a window of time where we need to begin to look at that. So,
Okay.
somebody needs to mute their feedback going on. So anyway, so what we have done is we've been working at this for a while, looking at it, and we put together 2 or 3 different elements of mentorship that has to do, one with Adopt a Dad, where we have a local congregation, an individual who has taken on an individual to adopt and work with that person. And while that person is not incarcerated, they are the outgrowth of incarceration, meaning that they're not specifically incarcerated right now. The other is with our in-step group, where we have mentors that are working one-on-one, and we use the platform Fathering in 15 as a way where that individual can walk with their mentor using their cell phone or their laptop or whatever. So they have a way to connect through technology. And then the third way is our doorway. And that is where our door is open here, where men who are coming from prison, from city and county jail, are able to walk in and meet with one of our staff individuals. All of this where we're keeping compliant to the COVID guidelines, but still creating an opportunity where they know that there's someone they can speak with. So those are the ways in which we're looking and continuing to do that. And then the other part that we're doing is we've created long distance learning centers on our 1st and 2nd floor in our building with the large screen monitors, so that whether they're in a class setting with a group of people or they want to connect from their phone, they're able to be connected into a larger community of support.
Excellent, excellent. So, Carlos, what adjustments has your ministry had to make in creating safer spaces for both mentors and mentees to meet in person? That is, if they are even meeting in person. So, what kind of adjustments have you experienced?
Yeah, so with us, our main thing was really going inside of the prison. So being that the prison has been shut down and we can't get in there, so we had to literally pull back from that. So now we are really focused on just working with the fathers under the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood. You know, just getting those fathers and working with the fathers. But also another adjustment that we had to make is just making sure that we put a lot of videos out. You know, Richard, we got to put a lot of videos out on social media you know, because a lot of our people, they follow us on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. One of the greatest things for the mentoring piece is just helping people to navigate, man, giving them real life experiences and having that dialogue on how to, you know, navigate through those experiences and come out on a better side of it. You know, so we've had people, you know, call us and things like that. And I've had conversations with some of my men that has returned back into society, and just some of the struggles that they've had with the COVID. You know, with the COVID, it's been some struggles, you know, and it's the regular stuff. It's the regular stuff, Richard. It might be, you know, my one guy, he has he's having a child. So he just want to know how that goes. Now, this is a child that is being had in, you know, in a funny space, you know, meaning that he's not with the women that he's having a child with, you know, but he's having a child, but he wants to get solidified in that child's life. So it's just, man, helping him to navigate that process. So we've been able to really up the phone calls and video
Excellent.
chats.
So, what
really
have, Carlos, what have been some of your existing challenges in mobilizing volunteer mentors since the pandemic? You've got a group of people that are involved with your organization. They've had to pivot on their heels to do something different now that the prison gates are closed. And so what is it that you've had to do? What are some of the challenges in getting volunteer mentors since then?
Yeah, so we don't have the volunteer mentors, you know, so it's just our organization isn't set up like that. It isn't set up. We disperse mentors out, so we don't have the volunteer mentors as of now. You know, that's the whole purpose of getting the individuals who are in the prison to stand up and become the mentors. But yeah, we are not there at this time.
I'll defer the question to Burl then. You know, with your organization, Burl, what have been some challenges in mobilizing volunteer mentors since the pandemic broke out?
Well, to be honest,
don't tell me you don't have volunteers either.
No, just to be honest with you, I don't know that we've had a huge challenge, because early on we began looking at this whole mentoring concept. And so our gateway of mentors has been working with a community of Mennonite men who kind of have their own group, but they partner with us in support. And then we work with a local congregation, as I mentioned earlier, who has individuals that are willing to mentor one-on-one, and that becomes part of it. But I also want to bring up the piece that we are working with the families that are incarcerated. So we have a team of guys that work within our building here through one of the other grants that we have, that they're doing some educational components that are replacing what might be their traditional mentoring by creating a gateway of engagement. And out of that, our facilitators are doing a certain level of mentoring. And then kind of along the line of what Carlos was talking about, I think he may be doing more than he realizes, and that is these individuals who are in our programming are actually becoming strength, because where a weakness in one individual is, there's strength in another. So we really have not had a mentoring challenge. We've just had to practice safeness in the way in which we conduct it.
Excellent, excellent. Jeff Ayton, are you there? Can you unmute?
I am.
Can you start your video? Are you able to do that?
I am.
Okay, go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead out on a limb, and I'm going to try something different here because our third guest did not make it to the group discussion. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pivot on my heel, and I'm going to bring in a third-party discussion, a third guest speaker. Jeff Ayton is, he held the title as the National Director for Bill Glass Behind the Walls. I know that you're regional director now for an area, you know, that includes Ohio, where you live. But I know you also deal with a lot of volunteers, and you know, with what Bill Glass Behind the Walls does, go ahead and introduce yourself. Go ahead and give us your region, and then I'm gonna bring you in on some of these questions just so we can get a little bit deeper. But go ahead, Jeff.
Sure. I have been the Midwest Regional Director for the last couple of years, and as Rich said, that includes Ohio. We've kind of moved some boundaries and now refer to it as North Central. But Bill Glass is a former Cleveland Brown that began going into the prisons 50 years ago. And in fact, his first event ever, it's a national ministry based out of Texas, his first event ever was at Marion Correctional. And so one of the things I've always shared with Rich and others is we are an evangelism training ministry. So we go into the churches and we look for people that want to learn how to share their faith. And then as Bill Glass says, we send them to the best fishing holes in America, which are the prisons, jails, and juvenile facilities. And one of the things that I like to think of is our volunteers, most of them are exposed to the prison system for the very first time. And so when those doors are open and their eyes are open, they look and say, wow, you know, this is something that I really want to get into on a regular basis versus just serving on a Bill Glass training event, you know, whenever they come to town. And so as I've shared with other reentry groups, I just want to make myself available and our volunteers available for those that want to continue to volunteer around the state of Ohio. I would be fine in sharing any information like that of those. And if you guys have any needs, to put it out there to me, and then I can you know, send that to my database, and hopefully we'll get the bodies serving the need where God's called me.
Excellent. I want to bring another question back to Carlos. So, Carlos, what is your sense of right now of men getting out of prison, reentering men's greatest fears and their greatest hopes right now?
I would say, man, the greatest fear is just the unknown, you know, as far as employment is concerned, you know, all of the things that's on the outside, you know, the housing situation, how is that going to play out? You know, that would be their greatest fears, and the greatest hopes is more than just man, becoming, you know, the people that they envision themselves in being, you know, that father, that person that's a part of the community, you know, that asset to the community, you know, that's their hopes, you know, and being able to overcome, you know, something that so many people, they don't, man, see. They don't have the opportunity to overcome it. I don't say not have the opportunity to overcome it, but they don't see the people overcome, you know.
Thank you, Carl.
Prison, and especially in these times. But it was something similar like that for me too as well, Richard. I got released right when the economy was declared the Great Recession. So it was tough back then too. In 2007, it was no joke, you know. But I think that, you know, once they understand that, man, it's just the work that needed to be done on the inside, and they did that work, they'll be confident in being able to get to where they need to be. But yeah, but other than that, it's more just, man, it's just the basic things, man. And when you have the conversation with people who are incarcerated, it's usually the same thing. That I'm looking for somewhere to stay. You know, a lot of people, they don't want to go back, you know, to the same environment that they came from, because if you go back to that same environment that you came from, it's a good chance that you'll fall right back into that same way of thinking, that same philosophy, you know, that helps that environment perpetuate itself. So that's something that's heavy, you know. So people, that's the main thing that I hear is people don't want to go back to that same place. And a lot of times it's their family members. You know, their family members are still there. Their family members are still, you know, holding on to that philosophy. So that's the greatest fear is getting back around that and then having to take that back on. And they already know the results, right? So.
Thank you, Carlos. Burl, let me ask you, what can people right now of faith and those in the faith community do to step into the gap of disconnection?
I would like to, if I could go back and give some answers also on that other question. I just want to mention a couple of
Can you,
things.
before you do that, make sure that you recite the question, because I want to make sure that it's understood what question you're answering. Which specific question?
I just wanted to talk about the greatest fears and greatest hopes for just a moment.
Sure.
And just for the men we're working with, the delay of responses, court cases, DNA testing, employment opportunities, continued employment, the barriers due to COVID, the inability to have parenting time, their own health, and restrictions that may be there. And then to counterbalance that, I think their hope is that that they would be received and that there would be a place for them. To answer the other question, what can people of faith and the faith community do to step in the gap of disconnection right now? I think it's to identify family members, because we're again looking at what does it look like to have support. Identify family members. And when I say that, I'm not talking about biological, I'm talking about who is that family to them. And then be careful not to be naive to the incarcerated mind. It's important for people of faith to realize that these individuals are coming from institutions. So there's a transition that they're going to be going through, and not to be naive to that. And then I think the third thing that's most critical is they need to ask God to order their footsteps. Often we do things within our own strength and not seek to do it beyond the superpower.
Yeah, I want to also just step in there and posit as a returned citizen myself that the day that I went home, I think that as a returned citizen, my greatest fear was as I stepped out of prison, that something would be missing in the formula of success that would cause prison to step back into me. I did not want to go back to prison, and that was my greatest fear. I did not want to fail the people who had waited for me, and that was my greatest fear. And I just wanted to share that as a personal note. Jeff, I want to ask you a question real quick. What can we do right now if we want to mentor men better through this pandemic? Give us one thing right now, Jeff, that we can keep in front of us to mentor men better.
I think the key right now is just what I refer to and what you've heard others refer to as touch points. There can't be enough of them, whether that, be, if you can't be there in person because of, COVID guidelines, just reaching out to them, staying in consistent conversation with them, know them, but, phone calls, emails, text, whatever, just be available and be there, because that is so important to people versus, waiting a month or two or every other month. But this is a great opportunity, and many of us, our world's been turned upside down, and we've been knocked off, and we have some of us anyway might have a little bit more time, since ministries like Prison Fellowship, Rich, and Bill Glass Behind the Walls and others can't get into the facilities right now. We definitely need to find ways to be in touch, and creative ways to be in touch.
Right. We are going to begin the process of shifting here momentarily. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to either raise a hand, unmute, and maybe see if there's a way you can get into the conversation. I'm open to that, with keeping the traffic kind of civil. But if you have a question, you want to send a chat or something and try to get into the conversation, you're more than welcome to do that. Let me see here. So we have about 25, 30 minutes before we begin the process of wrapping up. And so here's some questions that I want to pose. And you know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and begin the process of kind of like a polite Jeopardy tap in. I'm gonna throw a question out there, and Carlos and Burl and Jeff, if you want to hit the buzzer and think you have a heartfelt answer to the question, then by all means get in there. So let me begin that right now. What have you been thinking about regarding the topic, of pivoting ministry since the pandemic. Has there been something that's been on your mind in regard to your normal operations and how you can change since the pandemic?
Yeah, I was thinking about the just doing the videos and putting like programming on videos and starting to get that inside of the facilities. I got a call set up for the juveniles to talk to them, through Zoom a couple of days from now. So just continuing to give them that energy, give them that energy. One of the things about this mentoring piece and helping individuals who are incarcerated is all about the view of how we perceive that individual. If we look at the people who are incarcerated as somebody that we going to, give a handout, we going to help, then that's going to form a bit of a disconnect, because it's only one way that you can look at that person, when you're thinking of it like that, you're going to be looking down at them regardless. And that's what's going to, bring about the disconnect where they will not receive the information that you have to give them. One of the things that makes us so effective with the population is that I really believe, and me and Ebony, she's the business administrator of the Starts Within organization, we had a conversation yesterday and it just made so much sense. And of course it was a God conversation, and we were talking about, she brought to the table, she says, you know what? She says, man, everybody on the earth is all, they're all God, right? It's crazy. Now listen to how she put it. And I hope I don't butcher it, man, but it made a lot of sense. She was saying that we are all God's creations, right? And everybody knows that, but it's no separation, meaning that we are God just split up. So people are all God just split up, so the human race is all God just split up. And if we start to look at our brother as ourselves, then we will be better as far as this world is concerned. And now when we go inside of the prisons, or when we working with these individuals, we are really working for ourselves. We are really going to help ourselves, and they sense that, because now once they start to understand that, hey man, this person right here helping me is actually helping him, like we are one, then it changes the relationship, the dynamic of the relationship, all within itself. So if it's on Skype, if it's on Zoom, if it's on the telephone, it doesn't matter. It's all about the way that we perceive that individual who is incarcerated. So if the church and the congregation, if they looking at the individuals who are incarcerated as, man, hey, that individual is me, and I need to go and help myself, because I believe that in general, people are a lot more easier to help themselves than they will help somebody else. Like if you was hungry, you would be more quicker to feed yourself than, if somebody else was hungry, just because you're thinking of, man, hey, my stomach is hurting and I can feel it. But if you feel for your brother like you would feel for yourself, now we are starting to really bring the scripture to life, so that's one of the things that I think that can help, just the churches and people who are interested in mentoring this population, is just really understanding that, man, mentoring that person who was incarcerated coming home is actually, is helping yourself, it's helping yourself. And it's no money that can be attached to that, and
Absolutely.
A lot of we
there's an inspiration.
We let money stop us.
Right. There's an inspiration factor that goes in there as well, Carlos. I know that at the very beginning of our meeting today that you had paused to go eat, and so you were hungry, right? But you know what? When you got hungry, I got hungry because you got hungry. It's like yawning. It's very contagious, and success is contagious, and mentoring is like that. When you partner with somebody who's actually succeeding, and you see that they're succeeding, that becomes a desire in your own heart. You want to do that. You want to follow that lead. So it's kind of like the dog chasing his tail in a good way. It's a good thing. And Paul in the Bible says, I'm apprehended by that which I apprehend. So for me, it's circular reasoning, and it all comes around. And mentoring is a real strong example of leadership by example. So, well, I got a question for you. Have you identified any new opportunities in regard to this pandemic? Have you identified any new opportunities for in-prison efforts or out-of-prison mentoring efforts? You're muted.
Is that for me?
It is. No, it's for Burl.
Okay,
Oh,
I want to
okay.
make sure. Have we identified any new opportunities? And one of the things that we have been in contact with the superintendent at Noble Correctional, though we have not been able to formulate it, put it into place yet, but we're actually looking at doing a Zoom class with a limited number of inmates. And what they've done there, because of how they're grouped, they would be a group of 10 in a class would go to the administration building. And I see that I saw Tim Buchanan was on here. They would go to the administration building and we would Zoom in and conduct that class. Through the support of their case manager, they would assist us in doing some of the preparatory work as far as finding out their information that we need. And we would provide the material as far as the books and so forth. So that is actually in the process. Our facilitator would come here, we would connect there. The other thing that's happening within our facility is because of Project Ready, which is the Second Chance Act grant that's under Forever Dads, our guys that are leading that, Joe Frash and Eric Waldemeyer, they're actually doing the monthly reach-in, being available for those prisons to contact our guys and be able to do face-to-face communication with inmates, especially who have interest or are coming back to Muskingum County. So we're using technology to reach in and make the institutions aware of what's available to them.
That is excellent. And that's appreciated. Anytime a ministry is willing to change its direction in light of some trauma or event in society, that speaks well of the ability of that ministry to do its work. And I'm going to defer that same question over to Jeff from Bill Glass Behind the Walls. Jeff, so same question to you. What is the organization doing right now? Has it identified any new opportunities?
Yeah, and we've, it's kind of, we had some ideas initially that did not work out, where we were hoping to do some things even from the prison parking lots. And I know, Rich, you were involved in that. And then we got some of our leaders and those that come on the Bill Glass events to give a message of hope. We got some of them together at a Harley Davidson dealership to make a video just to send in and encourage these guys. Hey, we can't get in right now, but we love you. We're praying for you. And most recently, we started doing some events just in church parking lots, and we've got one coming up in Cincinnati with a ministry. They're in the community with about 40 different locations, and so we're partnering with them at one of their sites. We're going to do a training in the other site. We're going to do a program laid out identically as it is in prison, where we're going to have a Christian rapper open up, and then we'll have a motorcycle stunt show, and then the leader of that particular group will close. And so, we are reaching those in the neighborhood, and I know many of those that will be invited are part of this ministry's reentry program, where they're helping people in the neighborhood. So, we're trying again. We're doing everything we can. We just want to stay busy. That's the thing, because I've talked to ministry leaders. Some of those are predominant that partner with our ministry, and they have flat out told me they're just in depression. Whenever you feel called to do something and you're in the middle of doing that. And for me, for years, it was basically chasing one to the other. And then all of a sudden that gets taken away, a state of confusion. So just reaching out to those ministry leaders, back to what I was saying before, having those touch points, just checking in on them, making they're okay, and making sure they're okay. And Rich, I know as one of my good friends with you, and so we just have to be sensitive of those around us, and not everybody is treating I guess everybody's affected a little bit different by this, but we just need to be sensitive to all those individuals and what they're going through.
Thank you, Jeff. Some of what you said was choppy, but I think we got most of the gist of it. Has Eli joined us? Is Reverend Eli on the call? If he is, could you just let us know? If not, we're just going to keep moving forward. I want to just also share with the group, with everybody that's on the call, Prison Fellowship has also made some pivots on its normal practices to be able to continue to do the ministry work that we're doing in prison and out of prison. One of the interesting things that we've done that I'm just a big fan of right now is that we have created what's called an Angel Tree virtual experience. And so as you can imagine, with Angel Tree and collecting hundreds of thousands of applications from incarcerates all over the nation who are just yearning to be able to have that connection with that child that was left behind. This is an opportunity for a mother or father to send a gift to a child at Christmas. It's a connection, and it's also a connection to a community church. Well, we've been getting an overwhelming amount of applications this year, more than I've ever seen have come out of some of these prisons. Like, I'll give you an example here in Ohio, a specific prison with a population of about 2,000 souls has turned in 1,500 applications for Angel Tree. That's huge. And so that requires us to find church or organization sponsors to raise their hand and say, you know what, we'll sponsor these children at Christmas and send a gift to that child on behalf of the incarcerated mother or father. Well, as you can imagine, we're getting an overwhelming amount of applications, but what we're not getting is an overwhelming amount of churches that are desirous to be a part of that ministry, because right now everybody's scared to go out into the community, knock on doors of strange houses and give gifts away. Nobody wants to really get involved because of the fear of the pandemic. I shouldn't say nobody. There's plenty of churches that are still involved, but we've had quite a lot of lapse. And then same thing with having an Angel Tree party at a location or at their church. It's right now it's difficult to invite groups of people in when there's social distancing and try to operate an Angel Tree. So what we've done is we've created virtual Angel Tree that provides a link to a church or organization that raises its hand and says, we'll give gifts to these children on behalf of the incarcerated mom and dad. And we provide them a link that they can go on and select those children virtually. You select a tag, and then you make that contribution to be able to provide the gift, a letter from the incarcerated mom or dad, as well as a Bible and some age-appropriate gospel tracts to that home. And that's just one thing that our organization is doing. We have a lot of branches of our organization that are doing other wonderful things. But Angel Tree has shifted for the first time since 1982, since we've been in operation with Angel Tree. For the first time, we're doing Angel Tree in a non-physical way. It's kind of an intangible product, but we're still able to provide that gift to those children, to those families in need. And that's just one thing. And I'm sure that other ministries are doing other things. And I want to hear from Carlos.
Yeah, Richard, I wanted to ask about Angel Tree because I benefited from Angel Tree when I was doing my time too, man. It was a beautiful thing. Just, it felt good to be able to send my son. He was my son. I was my only son at the time, to be able to send him gifts, from dad. That was a beautiful thing. I had a question. So instead of dropping it off, can y'all just mail the gifts to the families?
There is a way that can be done, and yes is the answer. So you can follow up with me afterwards, and I can certainly get information regarding that. Joey Green, it looks like there's. Could you mute if you're not speaking? Because I think there's some background noise, and it may be coming from you or perhaps Lawrence. I think I just muted Lawrence. Okay, so moving on with our questions.
Before you go,
go to yes.
I just want to share, my staff here at the office came up with the idea of sending out greeting cards. And so sometime earlier this summer, I don't know when they did it even, they sent out 450, 500 cards to a lot of different individuals. And it wasn't just re-entry. though there were some inmates that received them, but it was to a lot of different people. And my point to that is that the more we can stay connected, even with those that are volunteers and donors, then when we need funds for Angel Tree, or we need volunteers to teach or to be mentors or connect with those families, that's the way to do it. And quite honestly, it's like $97 a month through send out cards. All the cards have to be different. All I'm saying is that's another way that you can connect with people even who are incarcerated.
Yes, sir. And you know, there's a well-known saying in prison ministry and prison mentoring circles, and that is that mentoring in prisons and ministry, you must be permanently flexible because it's consistently changing. And for those of us that have done time, it becomes a matter of just adapting. The prisoner's soul can adapt to almost anything. One of the things I think that is really hurting men and women that are incarcerated right now is the lack of intimacy. You know, for a long time within the departments of corrections nationally, you know, every state, you know, you talk 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, it was a lot more tight security in a lot of circumstances. It was a lot more violence, and there certainly was a lot less intimacy when you talk about family members and being able to hug or be able to. I know that with our director, Annette Chambers-Smith, she's talking about like connecting families, and that's one of her focuses, to bring more family into the prison setting, because that's what's going to change the heart of the prisoner. And I've heard discussions about, you know, family members perhaps even being able to go in and attend church with their incarcerated family member. Can you imagine that? I did 18 years, and not once was I able to have a family member sit in the chapel with me on a Sunday and hear a sermon, but that would have made a big difference to me. That intimacy being gone is huge right now. And when you talk about, first of all, we can't go in. But then again, when this all changes and we are able to go in, what are going to be some of the new practices? What kind of social distancing is there going to be? Is it, you know, how many years did it take us to be able to throw that, and you know what I'm talking about, Carlos, that man hug where you kind of grab the hand and you give the one tap on the back. And that is so important when you're holding classes or you're teaching, you're in prison. But that, I'm imagining at this point, is gone. It probably is, at least for some time, until we can get a grip on this pandemic. So let's go back to the street and talk about mentoring and what we can do to mentor men who have returned from this incarcerated situation back into society. I met with two men over the last week. Both of them were part of Prison Fellowship's Academy class at Grafton Correctional, and I took them out to eat. And you know, there's that social distancing that's still between two men. But you know what? You can still throw a hand up and put an arm around a dude who's got your mask on. And it's about adapting and still showing that love and still showing that concern for that individual. What are some of those things that are happening right now that you're doing? Anybody, somebody. So I'm going to throw that question out. Have you experienced anything similar? And can you identify with that need for that appropriate intimacy as we try to do mentoring and ministry? Okay, I lost you guys. Okay, so
yeah, you had cut out, and you were going like in slow motion, and it was going, it was doing.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you was going in slow motion. It was like.
You know what? I've been getting messages from Reba talking about how some of the other sessions have even had some serious problems, and people have had to be reassigned. And you know what? We're just going to move forward. Am I doing it again? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It looks like everybody froze. That means that I probably froze. Oh boy. Okay. I'm just going to say this, that the devil does not like when we get together and we lift the name of Jesus Christ and we try to do well. And so I'm going to ask Jesus into the middle of this meeting, and I'm going to ask him to kick the devil out. Can anyone hear me? All righty. Anybody there? Hey, and so it kicked me completely out and then brought me back in. Just when I thought I was out, they dragged me back in, right? I had to shift my computer, hoping to connect to some Wi-Fi, so I don't know what's going on. I guess it was me. You know what? We're going to just keep trucking forward. And let me ask Burl. Burl, what do you and your organization really need after this session? What is it that you're needing? Unmute, Burl. There you go.
Well, actually, I was trying to think and unmute at the same time. That can be a pretty demanding to try to do more than one thing at a time. What do we need? We need to, and Tim Buchanan sent me a text, we need to reconnect with our prison, I think is the first thing. And we're working toward that, and I'm confident that we'll get the support and assistance we need. I feel like we have the tools we need, and we have the vision, and we have the people. We just need to do it. All of these individuals, even who are incarcerated, whether it be city, county, or local jail or prison, they're all coming home. And we just need to be prepared for them and be aware of that and be ready to receive them. So I don't know. I feel like we're in pretty good shape. It's just a matter of really connecting with them. That's the thing we need.
It also seems, and just on another topic, it seems like we're getting messages from folks. Patrice, I think you sent a message just now, but I will tell you, as the facilitator, what I'm reading for that message is it just says, this is an encrypted message. That's all I'm getting from you and from everybody else who sent a message. So folks, if you're sending any sort of chats, please unmute and just ask the question because I'm not getting it. Patrice? Are you there? Has anyone asked a question that didn't get answered through chat? I saw a lot of questions or a lot of chats coming through, but they all said this is an encrypted message, whatever that means. Okay, we're going to move on. We've got about 11 minutes left in this. And let me just go ahead and ask Carlos. What is the hardest thing for you in pursuing new opportunities following the pandemic? What's been the hardest thing in pursuing new opportunities? What's been holding everything back the most?
Okay, you say pursuing new opportunities as in what?
Well, we've talked about what you've had to do to shift your practices. Right now, you're trying to send in more videos, which is a lovely thing. And I just, that's fantastic. I know that right now, the men and women that are incarcerated, they're limited on resources. They're not holding college classes as they typically would. They're not getting to go to their typical functions and groupings. And then they're probably not getting as many visits as they used to. So those videos, those inspirational videos are going to be very, very valuable right now and occupying their mind. Mind is a huge space for you. It's got a lot of room and it can get filled with a lot of junk. And especially if you're not involved in positive groups, if you're not going to college and getting an education, if you're not going to any spirit-led functions and you're not having visits, if you're sending these videos in, what has been some of the difficulties that you may have experienced in even doing just that?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of things like with the video, I'm gonna be honest, man, it's not the same as it is person to person. So when I'm on the camera and I'm in front of the camera, man, I try to work up. I try to get it to where I need it to be. Even these Zoom situations, man, it's kind of challenging for me, man. Like I like to really get into it. And it's kind of challenging when it's just like the camera and no human contact. That human contact is everything. So I think that that's one of the greatest challenges for myself is getting revved all the way up. Like I get revved all the way up, man, for the camera, especially if I'm just in a room by myself. Like I'm due to record, programming, and I'm just gonna be in a room by myself. Nobody there, but I gotta get revved up, and I gotta get into the mind as if people are there, so then they can really get that message. Because that's a lot of times how the message get transferred is by just being all the way into it. So yeah, so I think that's the challenging part for this new thing, with not being able to go in and get the individual, and get to the individual. So the opportunity for starts within, opportunity for me is really being able to get next to the men, is really get next to the men. Ebony and I, we had, again, I'm gonna tell you, we have all of these conversations when we pushing this movement forward. And she was saying, she said she has these big ideas for me, and she says, Carlos, man, we need to put you on roll. You need to be Roland Martin, man. You need to be on doing talk shows and all of this stuff. And I say, man, I gotta be in the midst, man. I gotta be right there at the bottom level with the men, man, working it out like that, man. Because that is everything. Just to be able to give them that information that's gonna take them to another level is everything. So when I don't have that opportunity to be able to do it, I think that's the challenge, but it's not a challenge that cannot be overcame either, because I'm starting to work it out to where I can bring that energy just like I would in person. I'm starting to be able to get used to it and do it on video as well. So we working on it, Richard. We working on it, brother.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's just fantastic. It's an inspiration, and I so appreciate you and Burl and others, Eli, Jeff. There are some ministries that will be greatly affected. All of our ministries and all of our organizations have been greatly affected. But one ministry that comes to mind that I do not know how they will adjust, because you just can't do it virtually or over a video, is Kairos. I don't know if many of you, and as an former incarcerate, you're familiar with the Kairos program and the 4-day Christian instructional weekend. That's one of the most intimate, and I continue to use that word because it's so solid and important. You're talking about videos, and you're talking about how to still maintain that relationship when you're just speaking to a camera. There's something lost in the process of a handshake to talking to a camera. That handshake or that pat on the back is very important. And those Kairos weekends are going to be something. I'm not sure if they'll be able to do something like that virtually. I do trust in the Lord with all my heart. I do trust in the Lord and lean not always completely on my own understanding. I think sometimes as human beings, we all sometimes try to wrestle into our own lane and try to drive, but we need to turn the wheel over a lot of times. And I trust that in this pandemic situation, God knows exactly what he's doing.
Hey, but
we're going to come out on the other end and understand that God has done something wonderful in the process of pain. I've heard people say before that the pain that you experience is your purpose in life. Your pain is your purpose. And Lord, if we've gone through some pain in this very difficult time, hopefully we'll be able to, and I'm sure that we'll be able to come through that and have some new experiences that we'll be able to take.
And Richard, and I want to just add on to that, just be excited about this stuff, because as a mentor, I mean, what you're going through in this pandemic is pain, right? And that's what you are going to be able to utilize to connect with that individual who is also incarcerated, is the pain, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be incarcerated, but hey, you going through pain, just like that person who is incarcerated is going through pain, and y'all connect with the pain, because we got to get over it. We got to get through it, man. This stuff is no joke, right? So it's challenges, and this is how that relatability starts to take place, because now when I'm incarcerated, now if I see that, hold up, man, you ain't got it all together either, man, nobody has it all together. It's just that some people can act like they have it all together a little bit better. But if we all came out with the truth and be like, hey, we all ain't got it all together, because ain't none of us sitting here like Jesus. So we still all got a long way to go, right? Like, this is just the reality. That will help the connection, right? So I think that people, mentors, just take advantage of these times, because it's challenging, and it can help you to connect with those individuals.
Any of the cryptological or computer failures that have happened during this presentation. I humbly apologize for. Some things are, of course, naturally out of our control, but I have been so honored to facilitate this, and I think that we've learned some things as we. I know that there's other sessions. I want to get some closing remarks. So I'm going to first turn to Burl, and I'm going to ask you for some closing remarks. Let's try. We're at 1:27, and we need a closing prayer, so let's keep it to 1 minute.
Real quickly, want to let people know that I put on there information about mentoring that came from the National Fatherhood Initiative, also what we did with our InStep group, and then also a story that was written as a result of what we've done. So for those that are looking to do mentoring development, I think there's some tools there for you to use. Thank you.
That's awesome, Burl. And Prison Fellowship is a big supporter of the National Fatherhood Initiative with their Inside Out Dads program. Just fantastic, and so we can give them I can definitely, back what you just said. And then Carlos, over to you with some closing remarks. You got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I just want to say, man, this mentoring piece, man, is no joke. It's just, man, just that relatability, just tapping into, just that desire to help, yourself. Helping somebody else is helping yourself. And I would be remiss to not mention, because I seen Jody Davis was on here, and she was one of the people who was teaching me Spanish inside a prison, inside a Marion Correctional Institution. And when she brought it to me, it wasn't like she was trying to get, it was more she was trying to give. And as long as we stay in that mindset, man, fight to give, we'll be okay. And people will receive it in the most righteous of ways. So fight to give, and we'll always have to
Hey, I got all of my Spanish lessons off the phones when we were making phone calls home. Manaqueros para español. From an Ohio correctional facility. It may be recorded or monitored.
Hey, Kim did. She tells me, she says, Carlos, is that the only line you know? Because Jody Davis, she gave me the Exio mucho, pero traigo mucho a la mesa. I demand a lot, but I bring a lot to the table. I asked her that, and she said, this is how you say it. And I've been saying that ever since, man. So when I tell people I know Spanish, I hope nobody ever figures me out. Because if you come to me and try to have a whole conversation, I'm going to be stuck, right? Because I haven't been practicing it. So I'll be stuck, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, all of you were wonderful to be here today. There are more sessions. If you are scheduled for those sessions, you can begin to go to those now. Hey, Jeff Ayton, are you still there? Going once, going twice. Jeff, are you there? Burl, go ahead and shut us out of the prayer, will you, sir, please?
Father, you've been faithful to us in these things that we have chosen to give ourselves to. Now we ask that you would guide us, take the words that have been spoken, the spirit that's been transpired, and equip us to go forth. In the name of Jesus, we ask. Amen.
Amen. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Mr. Johnson, very good. I'm going to ask that you guys mute, please. We hear some